How do you know that you're on the right path? When you're reinventing your product, your service, your business strategy, how do you know that the decision you're making is the right one, that you are not making a wrong choice? How do you know which path to take when you're reinventing? That's the subject of today's conversation. So let's go. Hi, Nadia Zhiksimbayeva here from Chief Reinvention Officer. This is a global community that is all about how do we deal with change and disruption of our turbulent economic times. How do we prepare our organizations, our careers, our families, and most importantly, really our businesses. This is a business community that is working on how do we prepare our businesses for any disruption. Our answer is reinvention. And today's subject is the question I got recently when I spoke in front of about 1,300 internal auditors in Chicago. And there was a subject matter, a question was raised in the audience, which was, okay, so we're working on reinvention, we're proposing new ideas, we're making decisions. How do we know that the decision we're making about a new product, a reinvented service, a possible new direction in terms of client base, customer segment, geographic region, how do we know that we are on the right path, that the decision we're making is the correct one? So it took me no second, that's just me, I probably a bit more brush with this to be very blunt, responded to this question, but it took me no time to answer with this way. How do you know that you're on the right path? You don't. That's the honest answer you can give to anyone, because we live in such turbulent times that today experts of yesterday are almost irrelevant already tomorrow. People who are relying on their past, on the best practices that we used ages ago, are no longer relevant because the reality is changing so fast. Something that was best practice for you just a year ago might be exactly the thing that kills you today. So what do? If you cannot have any assurances that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right thing, what do? Here I want to offer two ideas that might be helpful and two resources or two books that might be helpful as you're dealing with it. One idea is a generally recent idea. It comes from an amazing book called Lean Startup. And before that, it was circulating in the startup community for a long time. And the word for this simple idea is pivot. Pivot is something you do when you have an obstacle on the road and you need to make your way around it. Pivot is when a company was on a path, on a direction, but then realized that direction was wrong and it made a turn. There's a famous story of a little startup called Skype. I'm sure you heard of that. And the story goes that original Skype team was working on a completely different project, but since the team was so remote, sitting in so many countries, they made up their own software to communicate with each other for free in a very cheap way. That was the baby embryo of Skype, the modern app that you see today. So they pivoted. They worked on something else. They realized that there is a new direction that is necessary. So they pivoted and made Skype the center of their idea. So how do you know that you're on your right path? You don't, but thankfully you give yourself a permission to pivot. Test something with the market, test something internally with your internal customers, test things externally with your external customers, and then pivot. That's one idea. That's a first little nugget. And I do invite you to look at Lean Startup. It gives you tons of tools that help you also test your ideas. Very famous concepts already, such as minimal viable product, MVP, and many other things I will not release in this video yet. I will not go into depth on those subjects. But number one thing, pivot. You don't know you're always on the right path, but you always give your permission to change the direction. The second idea, or the second resource, is actually many, many decades old, and it comes from an amazing author, educator, and my personal mentor, the person who helped me write the previous two books and gave me a lot of advice on the first one, Embedded Sustainability, Henry Mintzberg, professor at McGill University. And what Henry provided to us as a guidance already decades ago is an idea of emergent strategy. If you just Google stop, pause this video and Google right now and see emerging strategy. You will see a beautiful image that shows you how companies go in one direction, but as they go and test that direction with the market, with the reality, with the financial restrictions, some of the ideas fall away, they become irrelevant, while some new ideas enter your strategic direction. Emerging strategy and all-around emerging strategy approaches is a great tool that will help you survive when you are discovering that you are not on the right path. So, today's subject of Chief Reinvention Officer, today's issue, is all about how do you know you're right? My answer is, you don't need to. That's the freedom of reinvention mindset. You don't need to know that you're right. What you need to know is that you can have disciplined approach on reinventing your solution as you go. Whether you call it a pivot or you call it an emergent strategy, the overall idea is that you give yourself permission to reinvent even during the process of reinvention. That's the subject of today's conversation. If you have an example of great company pivots, put that in the comments below. If you have an objection, if you have a strong reaction to this, of course, we always welcome them. Sign up for our mailing list. We have some new cool stuff coming up that will be available exclusively only to mail list sign-ups. So chiefreinventionofficer.com is the website. And until then, I will see you very soon. Bye!